All right, guys. So I'd like to introduce Mamie Jones. Now, Mamie, it's really inspiring when you meet someone who's changed not only the world around her, but she's helped inspire others in her group. She continues to inspire others, and wherever she goes, she lights the way for her teams and her organizations. And it's demonstrated through the changes that people not that they just make these changes, but they want to make a change for the vision that Mamie sets up. And she's done this at a few companies. In fact, she was with Travelers, and she was employee number 10. Oh, Travelocity, employee number 10. So they're pretty big now. Thank you for all the work that you did. She's been with Dun Bradstreet. She's been with Intuit for 6 years, where she leads the ProConnect group as the senior vice president. Last year, we were able to get her to speak at AgileCamp in Dallas and got such rave reviews about the inspiration that she gave to several people who were really struggling with their Agile transformations and struggling with their innovation. Who's got an innovation thing going on, or even transformation of some sort? You guys are making changes. What's inspiring is Mamie's gone through that, and she's got some incredible wisdom to share with you. So with that, I'd like to invite Mamie Jones.
Thank you. Awesome. Great. Good morning. Can everybody hear me? Cool. All right. Before I get started, I have a couple of guests I'm going to introduce you to because it's kind of special. For those of you in the room who may not know, which I think is the majority of you, I was raised in Beaverton, Oregon. So it's really a treat to be here. And in fact, I went to high school around just down the street at Sunset High School. Are there any Sunset grads in the office? Yeah, all right, go Polos. Nice, nice. But it's a treat. And since I'm here in my hometown, I have my mother, Margaret Timmons, who's here. She's going to be 91 in December. I hope she doesn't mind me saying that. My husband, Ken Jones, my sister, Robin Maloney, and my brother-in-law, Lars Maloney. They wanted to come and see. I think Mom especially wants to say, what has my daughter been doing over the last 30 years? So she's going to get a little glimpse into that. So what I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to talk about leading transformational change. And you may be asking, okay, that's great, but what does that have to do with Agile? Well, it has everything to do with it. And in fact, Agile is the catalyst to really changing a culture, an organization, mindsets, and so it's been a journey that I have been on. As Stacy said, started with Travelocity, and we had some really challenging times early on, and I thought there has to be something better. So we really embarked on the Agile journey, and I've been doing it ever since from about 2002. And it has been a very wild ride, but it's been a very exciting, and it's been so much fun. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to walk you through a story. I'm going to tell you the story of Intuit. When I came in, I took one team, and then about 2.5 years later, because we were so successful, they said, well, we're going to give you another team. And so what you're going to hear today is a playbook. And I've developed a playbook over the last, well, 30 years as I've gone through my journey within the software development. And this playbook is not just a what is important in driving transformational change, but it's also a how. And there's actually some tools that you can use for those of you who are in the throes or beginning to enter into transformation. So I saw the hands. There's a bunch of Nike folks in here. And so it was like about half, right? And you guys are sort of in that journey already. But sort of an audience participation here. How many are getting ready to embark in change? Getting ready to go into this change? Okay, great. That's about a quarter. How many are in the middle of it? Got it. How many do you think, do you guys think that this is easy? Yeah. So there is a Harvard Business Review article by John Cotter. This was written a while back, but it's still very, very relevant today. And the title of the Harvard Business Review is Why Transformation Efforts Fail. And quite frankly, a majority of them do. And that's what I'm going to be talking about today. I have 3 books that I also use as a guidepost throughout my career. One is The Leadership Challenge by Poons and Kozner. The second one is Jim Collins' Good to Great. And the third, which is fairly new for us at Intuit, is Turn the Ship Around, and that was by David Marquet. Are there any Turn the Ship Around folks here today? Fabulous. I didn't pay anybody for that, by the way. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you the story of Intuit when I came in 6 years ago. And what I did, I've built a playbook. You'll get this deck, and at the back of the deck that really is kind of showing you what this playbook is and some of the things that you can take into account, especially for those of you who are going into this transformation. It is very, very hard. And so when I came into Intuit, this is what I interviewed. They said, this is what we need you for. We are slow to market. We have little to no innovation. There is 0 process. And interestingly, when I came into the organization, the audit committee had come into the group, which was the accounting professional division at the time. They were doing an audit. They report to the board of directors. I'm coming in and doing my assessment. I knew what I heard during the interview. And guess what? All things were connecting, and we had a problem. We had poor application performance. We were in the mid to high 80s uptime. Bad. And then the engagement scores, which we do an annual survey every year, was down in the low 70s, high 60s, not particularly great. And then I always call this, we were a Dr. No organization, a can versus can't. No, we can't get that project done. I don't have time. No, we can't do it. We will never be able to put that in with everything else we're doing. We don't have enough resources. No, 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 no. And that is really not where you want to be in an organization. And so what I will share with you today is it's not just about technology that you can apply this playbook to. It can be really any industry. This is fairly unique to what our journey is with Intuit and mine in particular. So with that, just begin. You want to be able to create an environment. And that environment has several elements, some facts and then some key ingredients that I'm going to share. So first and foremost, entering into a transformation, the team that you are with has achieved great things in the past, and they can do it again. You want to be able to come into an organization and make a statement. You've got people who are there who desperately want to have that change, and then you have some people who are going to fight change. And one of the things about human nature is change is the only constant, yet it is one of the only things that we fight and we resist. And then recognizing early that you do have people that desperately want the change, and these are people that are really called your change agents, your catalysts, people that are your influencers. You have to find them, and you've got to leverage them, and you have to bring them and have them help you in your journey. And then remember that nothing great is easily won. So it does require a lot of persistence. So what I've learned through the years is the ingredients for success. Now, these are important, and if you don't have all of them, you can still make the change. But I'm telling you, if you have these ingredients in place, your chances of success are enormous. So I start with the boss, and this could be either an executive team, it could be your boss, it could be a body, whatever it is, but they need to be behind you. And they need to trust that this is where we need to go. Without that, again, you can still do it, but boy, it's a hard-won battle, and I've been in an organization where I didn't have the support and we slogged through, but not as easy and certainly not as much fun. Autonomy. This is very, very key. Going in and having somebody micromanage your budget or asking every question and finger on everything that you do, you simply will not move fast. And in this time, you heard Hannah and Robert up here saying, you know, we have to figure out how to go faster. In the industry, it is accelerating like never before. And this is autonomy on hiring. This is autonomy on firing. This is autonomy on budget. This is autonomy to make technology, process, tools, whatever you need, those are the things that you need to have at your disposal so you can move at lightning speed. This is what I call, the next one is my HR partner with chops. This is somebody who has either been in the organization a while, they understand where the challenges are, they are there to help you get the roadblocks out of the way, they are the partner in crime, and together helping to transform an organization, because basically the organization that you're doing is about people. Technology is the enabler, but people build the software, right? And you've got to have the right kinds of mindsets. And those of you who are embarking on Agile, some people are going to want to be on that journey with you, and there are some that are not going to want to be on that journey. And we'll get to that in a little bit. Competence. Now that's what I have to bring to the table. I have to come in with competence that says, I can do this, and so I'm going to start doing some early wins. And we're going to show you progress so that that confidence and trust is built, so that that autonomy keeps going, and that there's momentum and that flywheel moves. Then, communicating a clear vision. This often is forgotten, and you have to do this frequently, you have to do it often, but you've got to get people behind a guiding light that says, this is what we are doing, and you never waver. And you talk about it 10 times, 10 different ways, so people get it and it sinks in. But that is something that you've got to be able to do. It's a key ingredient of getting people behind you. And then my motto, which anybody that you talk to in Intuit will tell you, good things take time. Persistence is incredibly important. Sometimes you will take 2 steps forward and 1 step back. But as long as you are moving forward, that persistence pays off. So, to start the Intuit journey, we had to figure out how to capture hearts and minds of people. You heard the burning platform. I knew what the burning platform is, but does anybody else get it? So, when I started, for the first 3 weeks, I met every individual in my team. 120 people. I took about 3 weeks. And I use a script. And I learned long ago, if I don't use a script and I ask one person one thing, and I ask somebody another one, the next 10 people come in and say, why didn't you ask me that question? All right, they talk to each other. And so I learned to use that script. And that script is really important. Tell me about your background. Tell me the projects you're working on. And when I came in, there was actually, if you can believe it, 1 person was working on 10 projects. Talk about diminishing returns. So you ask about what projects, and then the big question, which is the crux of what I look for, is what are your challenges? I also ask, you know, what are the things that are going really well? They don't spend a lot of time on that. They talk about what's not going well, and that's your clue to see kind of what are those themes that are being pulled together. You have to make it safe, and you have to be genuine. People can smell phony a mile away. And that's why I ask questions around, well, tell me about your family. You know, what are your career goals? Let's kind of talk about what's important to you. And so you get into an environment which then people are very free to open up and give you what I consider the quotes. And I capture them. And in this particular case, I captured over 250 quotes over the 3-week period of time that define a culture. These quotes define your culture. Let me share a few. Now, I'm not bringing you some of the more colorful ones. I thought I probably better not do that. But it's amazing what people will tell you when given a safe environment. So does this look like a fun place to work? I'm stale, fatigue. Hey, I know what's going on, but leaders don't. Cycles way too long, no collaboration. It does not look like a fun place, right? So this was, how do I get others to get into that same mode of, oh my God, this is just what I've heard over the last 3 weeks. And then what I do is from all of those quotes, all of those conversations, I rolled up into some themes that really defined what we needed to go tackle as an organization. So this is sort of the meat of the journey. I'd been in the company about 4 months, and I said, okay, now that we've got everybody together, I'm going to bring people in. We're going to kickstart this journey. We had people from around the country that had been working together some 20 years, 15 years, 10 years, and so on, and they had never met. Never met. So we brought everybody into Plano, Texas, which is where our offices are. We went to a hotel in 2 days. We had tables very similar to this. And at each table, as people came in, there were the 8 themes that I came in and said, okay, guys, you have your table assignments. Go, get your tables. And everybody sat down, and I said, okay, now look around the room. These are the themes. Did I get it right? Did I hear you? Did I listen? This is what Nike is doing. They're saying, okay, let's listen, because it's the only way you're really going to understand where the psyche of the organization is. And everybody gave the big head nod, the big thumbs up, that, yeah, these are the things that are really, really struggling with. Now, 8 is a lot of things to go tackle, but what we did in the course of the next 2 days, the people that started at the table owned that particular theme. Themes like process, the skill sets, infrastructure, communication, innovation. These were some of the things that bubbled up from the conversations. They sat at the table and they said, yeah, this is ours, we're going to own it. But I can't just have one table owning a problem. I need everybody owning a problem. So what we did over the course of that first day is the one table, they had charts, whiteboards, and they said, okay, you go and do a few things within 20 minutes. You define how you're doing in this particular area. Tell us how you think we're doing. Next thing is set the priorities to improve. What priorities would you put in place? And then what would be your next steps? And then we rotated throughout the day. Every team got to go to every single theme, and they got to put their input. At the end of the day, the teams were given an assignment. They had to go and take all of that data, and they had to roll it up into a 4-page PowerPoint that basically said, how are we doing? So we're giving the essence of what the team is saying. Do we suck? Do we do a good job, or what do we do? Next is the priorities. They're saying, if we were going to go do something, what would the priority be, and what would we do as a next step? Very, very simple. So that was their evening assignment. We also, when we got them together, there was a box underneath the table, and during the day, we had them pull that box out. They were given an opportunity to get themselves out of their comfort zone, and they were given the job of creating an ad for Intuit. They had to use every prop in the box. They had 30 minutes to develop an ad. Everybody had to participate. They had certain criteria on branding, what is the message that they're going to send, so it was very structured. And then they had to deliver the ad in a minute. Again, everybody participating to the panel of the leadership team, the executive leadership team. And then the winners got a day off. So they were motivated to do a great job there. But it got people to think differently, they're a little crazy. The props had some feather boas, some stupid hats, some crazy stuff in there, along with some charts and whatever. But again, getting these people thinking differently, thinking about how we're going to do some things differently, and not being so serious, and getting a little bit, again, out of the comfort zone. So in essence, what we tried to do that whole first day, and then in the delivery of the second day, it came across loud and clear that these people were defining the burning platform just as I had heard it from the interview, from the people I talked to. And so we said, okay, now we're going to have to figure out what we're going to go do. What are we going to go tackle? And so we had a big board, and I said, can we go do 8 things at once? How many of you guys think you can go tackle 8 things at once? No, it won't work. I said, how about 5? No. How about 3? So there were head nods. They said, let's go after 3 things that we can go tackle and do it well. Now, unbeknownst to the team, we had placed each of the teams in an Agile structure. So they didn't know it, but they were operating together in an Agile way. So every discipline within the product development organization, we had them represented in each of those tables. And we also made sure that we had that board where they were each given 3 dots. Come up and put your dots up onto the board. Now, I already know what they're going to pick. I know the 3 things that they're going to pick. Regardless of the themes, it happens every single time. And so what did they pick? And this is the order in which they picked it. And this is what they said about themselves. The biggest problem we have is the people, the skills, the talent to take our organization to the next level. Not that we have bad people. The people are awesome. But there is an element that says there's self-awareness around we are not going to get where we're going to go without this upgrade, this talent infusion, and we've got to do something about it is the biggest problem. Process. This was the second. It was a very close second. And this is all about, they talked about we need to go do Agile. And they gave us some very specific requests, which I'll get to just in a minute. But this is really the crux of what changes the organization. And this isn't just about product development. When you bring that Agile to the team and you say, okay, product person, marketing, sales, care, you're now part of this Agile team. And because if you've got skin in the game to delivering a product, you own it with the rest of the development team. It's a big leap, and it doesn't happen overnight. And there are people in the business that are reluctant. But I tell you, when you start, and again, the persistence, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, as you start delivering and showing progress, this is that flywheel that ends up happening with Agile. And I suspect that many of you are already experiencing this in the teams that you're in. And then lastly, which is not the most important one, platform. That enables what we do, but we did have a lot of work to do in our technology transformation as well. So, as I say, okay, be careful what you ask for, we're going. And immediately after our offsite, guess what? This is the order of which we started to tackle people. You've got to set the expectations, and you set them early, and you talk about them often, and it is an inspirational goal. You have to set targets of what skill sets you're going to be bringing in. You set these expectations, and it's very interesting what happens to the organization. People are saying, okay, what does this mean for me? And it is always about that. What does this mean for me? Can I make this leap? Some people say, yes, I can, and they're going to fight to go do it. Some people choose and say, maybe I can't do this. But this is setting high expectations for what is needed. Making tough decisions early. This is one where, has anybody ever experienced anybody who says one thing to your face and goes and does another? I heard some laughter there. This is what I call saboteur. You want to give everybody the opportunity to come along. And I usually give people 3 strikes, and then you're out. But you've got to be able to ferret out and you have to make some tough decisions early. And you have to make an example. If those of you who are going into this, if you're going to fight these people every step of the way, your journey is going to be very, very difficult. It's the hardest thing to do, but it is the absolutely most necessary thing to do. And then it's letting people shine. Those people who are standing up, who are those game changers, who are that flywheel movers, people who are coming in and saying, what more can I do? Motivated. These are the people that are going to bring the organization along. And these are the people that you want to put up on the pedestal. You want the teams that are actually delivering some great outcomes. You're making that very public. Listen and adjust often. Love this with Nike. We do a test and learn at Intuit. We are never right. Mamie Jones can't make this happen. But what we can do is listen to those people who are in the trenches. They're telling us what's working, what's not working, and you have to listen consistently and adjust. And when you adjust and you're telling people, I'm listening, yeah, we didn't get this right, let's move over here, it's enormously powerful, and people will come and get behind you. And then it's this courageousness that starts building in the organization that says, I'm not fearful to go talk to her. She's actually human. And so it's a really big deal. And then celebrating. There were some things that the teams wanted to do. It had to do with some socials with beer. Come on. We're going to go do it in Plano, Texas, okay? But we did some things where we celebrated. We got people together, we listened, and creating an environment where it's not kind of this heavy thumb down type of an environment. Waterfall. The one thing that came out of our offsite is we were willing to go and do Agile, but in the readout of the deck that they gave us, do not do this to us without giving us help. So we parachuted in experts, and we did it for 2 years. We had them sit with the teams. It was the most impactful accelerator that we found, because we did not have expertise in the organization, and to say, hey, listen, we're going to go do Agile and let them have at it, wasn't going to work. So that was one of our key success factors, is embedding Agile experts, and ones that are really very well respected, who can be nice but firm, and really help the organization do this pivot and drive into this organization. And from the audit committee that I mentioned earlier, they identified our business unit as a high risk to the company, and that we had to do something immediate in terms of process, because there was zero. I had people doing Microsoft Project, I had people doing sticky notes, I had people on spreadsheets. No tool was the same, nobody, and there was absolutely no way that you could predict consistent release cycle. Big risk to the business. We completely pivoted and moved to Agile in 8 months. And that was for the help of parachuting people in. It was extraordinary, it was awesome, and it was a lot of fun. We want to listen to the team's ideas. I talked about that. The tools and the systems, this is one where, again, when autonomy and somebody's coming and saying that tool is not our standard, I don't care, get out of my way. These are the things that you're really wanting to have, that autonomy and that support, because the quicker you can move, the faster these teams are engaged and able to move. And then it's a continuing education, and that's nothing new to all of you. Our technology changes. It's changing so rapidly now that we have got to teach on Agile, we have to teach on technology, we have to teach on leadership, we have to teach all of those elements that really bring teams together to be successful. And then the most important is get out of the freaking way. We have a lot of new managers that come in and think they have to go prove something by being on folks, and I still see this today. We're not where we need to be, but when I see, and I'll give you some examples of some of the outcomes that we've had as a result of some of our innovation activities, when you get out of the way, what is produced is absolutely extraordinary. That it is a very key element, and some of us have a hard time doing that because it's a little bit threatening to step back, and then you think, well, why do they need me? Well, they don't need me, but and then lastly, the technology transformation. Very stuck. We're going desktop to online to mobile at this time when I came into the organization. And this was a really tough change to think about, okay, you've got to have the talent for online, you've got to have the talent for mobile, which we had very little to none. And so it was a huge technology talent upgrade. But going into the services, third-party integration, ecosystem play, and what Nike said earlier is very much what's happening across in the world today, is we all have to play together, this boundaryless work. And so we have our little PCG business unit, but I depend on our functional groups, I depend on TurboTax, I depend on QuickBooks, because we are integrated and we are an ecosystem, and that's where we have moved. And it's been really exciting to see that come together, although it's very, very difficult. Security. How many are worried about security these days? Yeah, there's lots of fraudsters out there, and when we do 60 million tax returns every year across Intuit, that's a lot of personal data that these fraudsters are after, so it has to be, it is our #1 priority. That, along with going cloud to make it faster and easier for our teams, that's the journey we're on, and it's been, again, a little bit of a challenge, but it's something that we are on 100% of the time from a security perspective. And now going into AI, ML, the conversational UIs, it's changing the face of how we're looking at our applications. So React.js, online, mobile, great. Now we're looking at a whole nother way of doing our work and how we look at our applications and how we design those. And then for us in particular, we're a high compliance organization. And so the complexity around what we call our run the business work was basically at 80% of what we did. Not customer facing, but we have to make sure our Fed tax forms, state tax forms, sometimes county tax forms, city forms. And when there's legislation that happens, guess what? All we're doing is updating. This is not building new product for customers. We had to figure out another way. We've now made material improvement to the business at Intuit as a whole and have reduced our RTB from about 80 down to 55 so far. And we have been on that journey. This is our 3rd year in a very specific initiative. But doing this, and it's all in service to innovation, because innovation is going to drive where the company goes, and innovation happens with every single person in the organization. It does not start with me. It does not start with my leadership team. It starts with people who have amazing ideas. And so I'm going to talk about one innovation that came out that I think is very, very exciting. We had what we used to call unstructured time within our organization. And this unstructured time was, oh, by the way, you can take 10% of your time out of your day and you can work on anything you want. Oh, wow, that sounds awesome. Well, guess what? The backlogs, or at the time, the waterfall logs, it was enormous. Nobody could get to it. And so there was sort of this, yeah, you're going to give me unstructured time. Great. I have no time to do it. Unless you want me to go do it in my 2nd day job at the evening, forget it. So what we did is we said we got to think about something differently. So we do what we call innovation days. We do this 4 times a year, sometimes 3, depending on how our tax season is going. We let people for 3 days work on what they want. We started with the product development organization. And the first one produced some pretty extraordinary results. And then as the flywheel, we've been doing this now for about 3 years. The entire business unit is now on board 3 days. People reach across different aisles. They grab marketing, sales, whoever, to start building these ideas that is a twinkle in their mind. This one in particular is called Karate. It's open source. You can see where you can access. But this is one individual out of our India office who was struggling because he's working on services. And how do you test web services? It's hard. And so the from and to here, it's harder than it should be. The quality suffers because you're having to constantly maintain these tests, maintain the tests. The solutions depend on just unsuitable programming languages. It's just not easy. And he has created a framework that now is taking the open source by storm. It's great for Intuit because it's an enormous Intuit brand. We have, I won't mention the financial institutions, but people are coming and they're adopting this because it makes it, if you can believe it, some people are calling it fun. I know, test, fun. Listen, go check it out. It's really quite extraordinary. But this is one individual who had 3 days. He had an idea. And he says, you know what, I'm going to go give this a shot. And because we gave people thinking time, we gave them time to actually collaborate, discuss, research, it is amazing what's happened. So this is just one example of when you unleash the power of people's time and their ability to think. Now, not everybody's going to do this, but for the most part, people who don't have an idea, they can go, hey, I don't have an idea. Is there something I can come and help you with? And it is, it's a great opportunity for folks to collaborate. And again, this flywheel I keep talking about is moving very, very quickly. So we're really proud about that. The other thing that we do in support of how we look at our Agile teams, this just gives you some snapshots into, we do hackathons. And when I walked in the door, this was like they couldn't spell open source. And so it has been a complete shift. The other last thing that I want to mention here is when you embark on change, it is not a, here's our goal, we're done. Right? This is an ongoing thing. But when you embark on it, as I mentioned, you've got to be able to continually share that vision and where you're going. And it also requires constant communication. People are starved for it, and in the absence of information, they make up their own information, and that's called rumors, or their stories, right? And so the more that you are communicating, and I do this very frequently, we do what we call a PD Tech Talk every week. I do skip levels. I do pizza lunches. We do all hands, offsites. And the message is always the same. We're on target. We're focused around where we're going, what it's going to take. Here are the expectations that we're setting so that there's no question that people know what direction and the path that we're headed. The other thing is leadership is everybody's business. This is not about me. It is not about my direct reports. It's not about my extended team. It is about everybody has the opportunity to lead, influence, be courageous, work with speed, innovate. And so we spend an enormous amount of time on that, and we share that at our offsites. We do different books. I mentioned the ones that we're pretty focused on. I don't go broad and do more and more books, although I do a lot myself. But the ones that I mentioned earlier are really very good guideposts into everybody can be a leader, and these are tools that teams can use if they so choose. And then I talked about the innovation. I won't go back over that. And then again, I'm reinforcing you've got to celebrate, you've got to recognize, and you've got to bring that excitement, because engineers want to put their stuff to customers, and they want to see customers using it. And then they want to be celebrated for those things that they are doing. And oftentimes, this is the easiest thing to do, and yet it is the thing we don't do. And in the employee survey, to write a thank you note and hand it to somebody will last them for a year. They're so excited about it. But doing the little things, and it doesn't cost money. It's a drive-by. We do swarms. We call them swarms. When somebody does something, the leadership gets together. We block a time on the calendar at 4 o'clock, and we swarm. We go over to this team, and they think, oh my God, what did we do? Nothing. You did an amazing thing. You delivered this awesome capability. We do the wave, and it's the little things that count, but it is something that we don't spend enough time doing. Okay, so kind of the money slide here. I'm not going to read all of this, but I am going to call out a couple of things in terms of some of the extraordinary results. And I'll use the example of our uptime. The uptime we had like at 83%, as I mentioned earlier. We are now at 4.9s, but when I first came into the organization, I had a leader that said, yeah, it's pretty bad, it's bad. That's unacceptable. And I said, so we have to aspire to something great, and we're going to aspire to 100% uptime. And I said that in front of the team. I said, this is the aspirational goal. And he comes in my office, shuts the door, and he says, you can't say that to the team. And I said, well, yeah, I can. And we're going to aspire to up 100% uptime. I've achieved it for 9 months at a time. I've achieved it for 4 months and 5 months. It's doable. But those are some of these mindsets, which then kind of talks to the talent growth. This one is not what I'm extremely proud of, but when I came into Intuit, I had to change the leadership 100%. And not because I didn't try, but it's a mindset of you cannot tell the team that they can aspire to 100%. You will never get to sub-second response times online. Don't even try. Those are the kinds of things that you either have to identify early on to say, is that somebody that is going to help us put enormously aspirational goals out there that, we may not be able to achieve, but I tell you what, if we got, 3/4 of the way there, we would be on a freaking roll, right? The process 0 to Agile in 8 months was extraordinary, and we even got a lot of accolades from our audit committee. And then testing, we went from almost 100% hand test to over 90% now is all engineering. It is all automation. And so these were big leaps. And if you look at an organization that does only manual testing, and you're taking people that says we need engineering skills, that's the expectation we're setting. You have to have these skills to be able to write test code. And these quality engineers are going, I don't think I can do that. You'll see 40% of the team upgrade. Half the people left on their own because they said, I can't be successful here. And then there was another half of that 40% that we had to help find something else. Hardest thing to do, and we give people every chance. In fact, we give people numerous chances. We move them into different roles, but at some point, you have to make the decision, are they going to hold us back, or are they going to help us accelerate? And those are the hard questions, because we're dealing with human beings. But Agile is a change. Have anybody read Straight from the Gut from Jack Welch? If you haven't, it's an amazing book. He has a quote in there that says, you know, we hired people, fabulous people, a long time ago, and the world has changed. And because the world has changed, they either have to come on board or they're not gonna make it, and they have to find something else. It's a hard thing to do. He talks about it in his book. But we are now in the mid-80s for engagement. We continue to enjoy that. We do pulse surveys every 4 months. And so it's been extraordinary. And so what I want to share is we did another pulse on the quotes. And I thought, you know what? I don't want to be sitting here blowing smoke up, you know, my own backside. So we wanted to kind of get the feel from the team. This is a much different feel. And when you have emotional comments, it really kind of says, again, it defines a culture of where people's mindset is, what the excitement level is within the organization. So the fact that they love the shift, constantly improving. This is awesome. People committed. There is this camaraderie that's forming based on these particular comments. So you will get this deck. This is the playbook. As I mentioned, it's creating that environment. It is capturing hearts and minds, which is really where you have to spend your time. If you're going to create a burning platform that people are going to get behind and believe it and then sign up for it, when everybody signs up for it, nobody can say, I didn't tell me so. And then the hard work begins by the execution of the commitment to actually executing on that. Through people, you're absolutely arduously focused on, or do you have the best and the brightest? Are you constantly upgrading? What are the new skills for the future? Are you thinking about that now because they're coming? And then recognizing it's a journey, it never stops. You have to continue to bring those people along, and you do it through a lot of different venues. But it is a method. I've had some of my leadership team actually take this and have actually implemented in their organizations. They're seeing dramatic results that we have seen. And again, I've done this back in the day of Travelocity. I've done it at Dun & Bradstreet. I've had the opportunity to do a transformation within 2 organizations within Intuit. It's kind of what they've asked me to come in and help, whether I help teach, coach. But it gives you some tools that I hope that this is helpful for you. Also, I am always in learning mode. This has been built over many, many years, and I learn from so many people that say, hey, have you thought about this? Hey, we tried this and it worked. Have you thought about it? I'm very open to hearing what you guys have done, how successful you have been, tools or other things that you have, so very, very open. And you have my email from the presentation. I'm always open to hearing your thoughts because, again, I'm a big learner. But it is a successful and a repeatable process, and it's been proven over and over again. And so I hope it does provide some help for you guys. And then the opportunity ahead for us, which I think all of you guys are facing, and I've mentioned it briefly, is here's where we're going. This is our next phase of great. We cannot be sitting here in online world. We cannot be sitting here in mobile world. There is all of these new technologies. Blockchain, oh my gosh, for the financial institutions and for tax, this type of security and the ability to protect people's information. Chatbots for our call centers, it's our big new wave, and we are at it 100%. In fact, the company is shifting and really moving in this direction rapidly. So with that, thank you for your attention very much, and I think I have time for maybe 1 or 2 questions. All right. Thank you guys so much.
So who would like to start? We've got some runners here. Any questions?
Yes, in the back.
In the back.
Your name?
Chat.
Chat, okay.
So we're talking about kickstarting the journey and taking individuals off-site and out of their comfort zone. Who were those individuals that you took off-site and
good question.
Plan that out?
My entire PD organization, every person was off the job for 2 days. And believe me, when I said I'm taking developers out for 2 days, What? We had to. But it was every individual, test, architecture, content, you name it. It was every individual that had skin in the game for product development. At the time, it was about 120 people from around the US. And again, it was shocking they had never met each other. It was shocking. But they loved it. They absolutely loved it. What else? Yes?
With some of your personnel changes, can you tell me how was it kind of a relief when some of the people for the teams like, oh, finally you got rid of that person? Or, I mean, can you tell me about some of the change management with that and some of the issues beyond that? Make sense?
It makes total sense. I think that many of you probably heard this already, but it's a really good point. And sometimes it's hard to talk about, but when somebody leaves, and again, I'll use a Jack Welch model. It's his 4-quadrant model, where it is you have skill on your Y and you have attitude on your X. Everybody wants the high attitude, high skill person, right? You only get to pick one more box. I go with the attitude. I don't go with the skill, because I can teach skill. I can't teach attitude. So to your point, when somebody left that everybody knew had to go, thank God. And the team lifts up. It is amazing. The other thing that Agile does, we use Scrum, it exposes weakness. And people who have been hiding cannot hide anymore. And they are exposed. And so that's really where half of the team says, I can't do this. That there are these others that think they're the horse. They run the mile, the marathon, they step on people all the way through. They think that nobody can get rid of this person because they are, the world will crash and burn if they leave. Guess what? It doesn't. And in fact, there's somebody waiting in the wings to step right in. And so this is where, when I said make a statement and do it quickly. Because people need to know that you mean business. And when I came in, to be very blunt with you guys, they say, she won't last. We can outwait her. We can outlast her. Because it was an entrenched organization. It is no longer entrenched. But it is such a key element. But you're dealing with human beings. And that is where the integrity and the, how you treat individuals, and we do it very, very well at Intuit. We help people figure it out. And it's not done in an ugly way, but people need to know where they stand, and that's feedback in the moment, and you do it constantly until people get the message, and that's where you set those expectations. It's so critical. Thank you for asking.
One more. I think we've exhausted our time box.
Okay.
But thank you so much, Mamie.
Yes, thank you.